Police officials in Las Vegas have released body cam footage of the mass shooting that took place in Las Vegas just this past weekend. Now, we're gonna show you some of that footage, and it is graphic. It is difficult to not only watch, but also listen to. However, it gives you a sense of what police had to go through. It gives you a sense of the confusion and just the fact that so many people put their lives on the line to help save some of these victims. So with that said, again, graphic warning, let's take a look.
I just hit my head. Hey, go that way, go that way, go that way. Hey, they're shooting right at us, guys. Everybody stay down. Stay down.
Where's it at?
North of the Mandalay Bay. It's coming out of a window.
That's so terrifying. When the video, not this video, but when videos from victims had been released on social media, a lot of people were speculating that he had an automatic weapon. It sounded like an automatic weapon, but we now know that he had a semi-automatic weapon and used a device known as a bump stock to essentially turn it into an automatic weapon. Police have now confirmed that 12 of the weapons that they found in his room were fitted with a bump stock. So he had several weapons that had this capability. Also, just to give you some more information, through this investigation so far, they have not found a motive, and it's driving everyone, including the investigators, crazy. Now, Sheriff Lombardo held a press conference yesterday and addressed a number of questions that the press and the public have. So I want to show you some of those answers. Let's take a look at video 2.
Question about Ms. Stanley and her comments to the lawyer that she had no idea what was going on.
Well, I think any person put in her situation would probably answer the same way. But like I said, we're not privy to the investigative leads that were obtained today. Mr. Rouse could probably give you some better clarification to that. I haven't been briefed by the FBI on that interview as of yet. What was the other question, sir?
You said that you are still trying to figure out whether he had any accomplices.
Right. Yeah, we're obviously going through that. It's troublesome that this individual was able to move this amount of gear into a hotel room unassisted. It's troublesome for the amount of stuff that he had at both residences unassisted. So there's people that know this individual. There's people that could help us understand this individual. Because, interesting enough, I read a periodical earlier today, and it was from an FBI profiler that didn't understand this individual. Usually there's a telltale sign associated with these type of actions, reclusive, a plethora of things associated with this mindset, and we have not found that yet.
So real quick, in the beginning of his statement, he addressed a question that the reporter asked him about Mary Lou Danley's statement. And Mary Lou Danley was the girlfriend of the shooter. She flew back from the Philippines to cooperate with FBI officials. And in her statement, she said the following, graphic 8. It never occurred to me in any way whatsoever that he was planning violence against anyone. He never said anything to me or took any action that I was aware of that I understood in any way to be a warning that something horrible like this was going to happen. And so Sheriff Lombardo in that press conference said, yeah, that's the type of answer that I would expect of anyone in this situation.
But in what way do you expect that? Do you expect that in that I am protecting my loved one, or do you expect that in, because I don't expect that.
Yeah.
Unless it's I'm protecting my loved one.
Look, I think Sheriff Lombardo is put in an incredibly difficult situation, and it's hard to answer these questions without ever speculating and implying anything that seems speculative. That seemed a little speculative though, because the way that I read it was that he was implying that, if she was in any way knowledgeable about what he was gonna do, then she's not gonna just tell the FBI, like, yeah, I knew about it. But I don't know, that's my read of it.
The thing is, there's so little for us to actually grab onto, and that's what they're getting at. That's very disconcerting, disorienting. It makes you feel it makes me feel nuts when I think about it. And the person I know who was out there, that's the one thing that she was at the concert. It's the one thing I said yesterday on the show that she's grappling with. She's like, I mean, just the trauma of the experience isn't what's gnawing at her as much as why did he do this? But then you hear stuff like that, and you hear the sisters give interviews in Australia. She was never like, tipped off to anything strange about to happen, but he said, I got you a ticket to the Philippines that's real cheap, so you should go. Also, I'm gonna wire you $100,000. That's the opposite of someone looking for something really cheap.
Yeah, you're right. There were also reports confirmed by police that he had purchased 33 weapons in one day. And the Las Vegas Journal-Review reported that he had been prescribed anti-anxiety medication. I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't seen that reported by any other source as of yet. It might be confirmed by other sources as well. There have also been reports that he was gambling for 8 hours straight prior to the shooting. These are all things that could play a role in trying to piece together a motive, but to be clear, there is no confirmed motive as of yet. And that is driving a lot of people crazy because, again, he had no criminal record. There's nothing from his past, nothing about his displays in public that would, tip anyone off to this. Also, people are concerned about the fact that he has had a history of booking hotels like at music festivals with a clear view of the concert goers, the festival goers. That happened in August for Lollapalooza. And also Paddock had reserved a room via Airbnb at the Ogden Luxury Apartment Complex, which overlooked the site of the Life is Beautiful Festival, an event over the previous weekend that featured acts such as Gorillaz and Lorde.
And when you look at the timeline of his girlfriend being out of town, the Life is Beautiful Festival came within the window of her being away. So he sent her out, at least they have her being in Tokyo, going to the Philippines on the 15th of September. So that falls within the window of him making sure she's not there so that he could ostensibly take out and do this.
Lombardo also disclosed the fact that they found materials to make explosives in his car. They discovered several containers of explosives and 1,600 rounds of additional ammunition in his car. I believe ammonium nitrate was one of the materials that they found in his vehicle. I want to also talk a little bit about the fact that some evidence in the room made it appear that he didn't intend to kill himself. It appeared that he actually intended to escape. And that is based on what Lombardo said during the press conference. Let's go to video 3 and hear from him.
You suggested that after he saw the security guard that his concern became himself. Did you see any evidence that he planned to survive this or try to escape?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is?
What's that?
I can't tell you.
So he wouldn't elaborate on that, and that's understandable considering they're still investigating this.
Yeah, it's such a strange feeling until we have some sense of surety. And for the person I talked to that was there, she doesn't believe it's ever going to come. She is in a point where she doesn't think there will ever be any closure. She's at the point where on the ground, she and others thought that there were multiple shooters. Like these are people with multiple tours in military service saying, I just don't believe it's one person. So it's right now it is all of that swirling that comes down to people just all we want is an answer.
Yeah.
That's all we're looking for. It is really terrifying that there's the Life is Beautiful festival that he booked tickets at. It's interesting to see. I read a report that the Austin City Limits told people if you are nervous about your security, know that we have the best security that we can put into effect. But also, if you want your money back, that's fine. Yeah, just let us know. And they're refunding tickets if people feel uneasy about it. They don't want that to be what makes people go and not be able to enjoy themselves for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I think it's great that they're doing that because I would feel uneasy. But at the same time, do you let someone like this crazy person change your way of life? I mean, I feel I don't want to go to music festivals right now. And also, here's another thing that I'm concerned about. By talking about this, and you have to talk about it as part of the media because the public deserves to know the information. This is the largest mass shooting in modern history. But at the same time, does this give other deranged individuals any ideas? I don't know, and it's hard to strike the appropriate balance as a member of the media.
Yeah, and you do need to talk about it not just as a member of the media, but as a person.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're just going to bottle it up. It's nuts. Like at my house, we'll just be in silence playing Candy Crush for a while, and then just kind of sit up and have a new thought and be like, "What about this? What about that?" You know, and it's really traumatizing. The question is, will it change my way of life? There are changes I think we need to make in the country as a result of this. And I mean, there has been promising talk in the news about that actually potentially happening.
Help us build independent media together. TYTnetwork.com/join.